Hi everyone and welcome to the season recap number 3 where we'll discuss past 22-23 NHL season. And today we are going to discuss Central Division. So we are going to start off with the last place in that division, Chicago Blackhawks. And I don't see any point that we can talk about with Blackhawks because, they have the worst squad in the whole NHL. They are really, not the team that you expect to do much, because this season there was obvious that they tried to tank for Connor Bedard. They did it, they got him, and in the next 5 seasons maybe we'll see them maybe as a playoff team, but I don't really think like that. So they were last, and I think that's well deserved because they played so bad. Like 59 points in 82 games. That's an insane amount of losing. So about the squad, I don't really know any weaknesses, any advantages. I just want to say that the Blackhawks need to change something, and not in terms of playing, not in terms of squad. They need to change something in their mind, because with that state of mind, they won't get anything, in my opinion. That's it. So at the 7th place we have Arizona Coyotes, and this season Coyotes really surprised me, because if we take a look at last seasons, like 3 years in a row, they were really bad, awful, and they had nothing to show us. But this season they surprised me because they played really well. Yeah, they got only 2 more wins than Blackhawks, but they got 11 more points. That's really good, because they showed their passion to this game. While team like Chicago losing right and left, Coyotes really tried to do something. Obviously they did not fight for the playoffs, but they played good. I should say that if we speaking about Coyotes in terms of long age, in my opinion it's like 5, 6, 7 years, or maybe 10 years, we'll see Coyotes in the playoffs once again, and we'll see Coyotes maybe somewhere further than the first round. So we'll see. If we're speaking about this season, I really liked how Arizona played, because they showed some passion. They did not just lose like Blackhawks. They played, and I like that. So at the 6th place we have St. Louis Blues, and in my opinion this is the most disappointing team in this division, because they have great squad. They tried to fight for the playoffs, but then in the middle of the season they decided to give Vlad Tarasenko, who was a leader of this team. And right after this trade, everybody understood that Blues won't fight for the playoffs. And that's very disappointing, because in my opinion, if Blues were at the Pacific Division, they'd be at top of it. So I really want to say that Central Division is the strongest division in the whole NHL, because those teams can compete with any other team, and they will win almost every time. I just want to say that at every division we have like 2, 3, maybe 4 teams that cannot fight for anything. They just teams like Blackhawks or Coyotes. And what about the Central? We see 6 great teams that can be cup contender from season to season. 6 teams. That's so good. And if we take a look at the spots, we have 4 spots for the playoffs. Maybe some spots you can take by the wild card, but when you have 4 spots to go to the playoffs, you cannot fit 6 teams in those 4 spots. That's the point. So I'm very disappointed about the Blues, because I think they have great squad. They have everything, but they need to wait. They need to wait patiently, because the Wild will drop off the Jets will drop off and they will have this spot. But next season, I guess they will fight for the playoffs once again because they will improve their squad by some signings. What about the 5th place? We have Nashville Predators, and the Predators really surprised me a lot because they did fight for the playoffs, used to fight for the playoffs during the whole season. Then at the end of the season, they had like 2 points to gain to the Jets for this spot in the playoffs. And then they decided to just to give up. They traded some guys. They really did everything to not to go to these playoffs. I was really surprised about it because I know that if they would go to the playoffs, they'd lose to the Avalanche in the first round. That's obvious. We saw that last year. But why not to try? I don't get it. So what about the Predators? They have a great squad, but Matt Duchene left them, and I don't really know who can be a leader of this Predators team because they have great youngsters, they have great bottom 6 players, they have great depth, great defense, great goalies, but Nashville needs to find a leader to their team. So that's my point. Without a leader, Nashville will be somewhere near Arizona and Blackhawks. So at the 4th team, we have Winnipeg Jets, and I like this team. Even if we take a look at the standings, they have only 3 points more than Nashville. But if we compare them in playing, in squad, we'll see the Jets, one of the most underrated teams in the whole NHL. I can tell you why. They have Kyle Connor. And in my opinion, Kyle Connor is the guy who can be compared to Connor McDavid because Kyle Connor is so fast. As fast as Connor McDavid. They have great shoot, great vision. But how many times do you hear anyone talking about Kyle Connor? I don't really think that you've ever heard someone talking about Kyle Connor except of Jets fans. Because everybody speaking about Connor McDavid when we have the guy like him and no one talks about him. And then we have Nikolai Ehlers, who I can compare to Leon Draisaitl because he is not that fast, but he has great vision, he has great shooting. So why should we speak about McDavid and Draisaitl when we have Ehlers and Connor at the other side? And those guys, Ehlers and Connor, they are not that overrated as Draisaitl and McDavid. In my opinion, Ehlers and Connor are the most underrated players in the whole NHL. And Jets have great potential because they have great youngsters. They have these guys like Connor and Ehlers who can lead them to some accolades, and then we'll see Jets fighting for the cup because Hellebuyck is a great goalie, and even though he is asking for like 10 million a year, Jets will find a way. I hope Jets will find a way. And then if Jets will save Connor Hellebuyck in their squad, we'll see Jets somewhere in the finals once again. I hope so. So at the 3rd place we have Minnesota Wild. And in my opinion, Wild is the most inconsistent team in the whole NHL because they can win like 10 games in a row. They can smash every opponent at their way, and then we will see them losing to Coyotes, to Blackhawks, and slightly falling down in the standings. They have great squad, and I'm not gonna lie, I love their squad, and I love Kirill Kaprizov. But, in my opinion, the strongest place in the Wild squad is goaltending, because you have Philip Gustafsson, who is the guy who can save you any game, anytime, who can play all games in the season, and this guy won't disappoint you. And then, as the second goalie, we have Marc-Andre Fleury, who is really the most experienced goalie in the whole NHL. So you don't need to think about your goalies. If Gustafsson has something that may disturb him from playing, you can put Marc-Andre Fleury in the net. So the Wild is that high because of their goalies, because their goalie is consistent. And if one goalie cannot do something, the second will do it. So that's my point. At the second place, we have Dallas Stars. And in my opinion, Stars may be the team like Lightning a few years ago, because they have everything. They have great experienced leader, Joe Pavelski, and if we compare them to Lightning, they had Stamkos. Then they have great youngster who can do really everything, that's Jason Robertson if we compare him to Nikita Kucherov. Then we have great center for the first line to connect those two, that's Rob Hintz. If we compare him to the Lightning, there was Braden Point. They have great bottom six players, because in their bottom six we may notice great mixture of experience and youngsters. And also we may notice some great experienced players playing in the second line, that's Ben and Seguin. So those guys can really bring something if we'll see Stars fighting for the cup, because when you're fighting for the cup, you will need experience and you will need to do something when your leaders are covered, and the guys like Seguin and Ben will do that. So Stars had really great season. They were only 1 point off of the Avalanche, who are the first. So I really can't say about Stars not much, but I should say that Dallas Stars will be a champion in next 5 years. That's my point. So, and then the first place we have Colorado Avalanche, and in my opinion, Avalanche, not the overrated, not the underrated, and not the fairly rated. That's very interesting, because everybody is speaking about Avalanche, but I can say that they're lying, because almost everything that's been told about Avalanche is true, almost everything. But I can tell that they are underrated, because we hear about them almost every day. But why are they not fairly rated, in my opinion? Because every time they get in first place in their division, first place in their conference, they playing great in the playoffs, and then we see nothing. Only 1 year, it was last year, we saw them winning a cup. So what's the point of this team? Because everybody thinking that Avalanche is a cup contender. Avalanche can beat almost every team in this league, and Avalanche shows it in regular season, because 108 points, that's not that bad. But then they are losing to the Kraken in the first round, and what else? What else can you say about it? Because, in my opinion, Avalanche is not fairly rated, because they cannot prove anything. Anytime we hear like Avalanche will be in the second round, Avalanche will be in the finals, we see nothing. But that's not an underrated team, and that's not an overrated, and that's not a fairly rated team. That's nonsense. So if we're speaking about whole standings, I think that everything is right. No team is harmed, no team is underrated, no team is unlucky. Nashville really did bad job, because they could fight for the playoffs, but then they'd lose in the first round. That's obvious. So that's all I want to discuss with y'all. Thank you for listening. Hear you soon.